Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I already see folks in the chat, some friendly faces. So, good morning. Thank you for being here. And yeah, thank you for the good wishes of the vacation, of the time off. It was, as I say, with time off, I think you realize you kind of need to switch off when you're there. So, it was nice just to have a week of doing a bit of coding, mainly playing games. Going to see some family. It was actually a nice sunny week here in the UK, so it meant that we could actually go and have a nice time outside as well. That's kind of unusual here. I think we're actually starting to get like spring and summer weather. So very blue skies outside. So it's very uplifting compared to the winter. So yeah, my week off was great. Thank you for asking. Um, So hello, and can I talk? Yes, I can. I did see that message when the countdown was going, but yes, hopefully you can see this online and yeah, we're interacting here. So we can talk back. Hello, and yeah, we'll have a good stream today, folks. Oh, my mic sounds a bit muffled. Interesting. Anyone else having that issue? I might switch microphones just to my headphones if that's the case. Let me know. Okay. Give me 1 minute. Okay. Is that any better now? Let me know. Yeah, I think I was playing with my audio mixer a little bit earlier, and clearly I have not done good things to the sound. Better, but echoey. Ah, okay. I'm seeing yeses in the chat, so hopefully that works better. Let me know if not, and I'll try and figure out something as we go. Yes, so time off was lovely. Thank you for asking. So what are we going to do here today is a great question. Normally I come in with a bit of a plan, a bit of an idea of what I want to go and do. And today I've got a few ideas, but I'd love to be led by you all today. Because I'm kind of in the mood to learn as well. I'm in the mood to kind of try something out and experiment a bit today. So I'd love to understand. But first off, where are we all tuning in from today? Where are we all from? And what I would love to really know today is, what are you all working on? Like, what is that project that's kind of taking up your time at the minute? Whether that's kind of the main project you're working on, the side project. What are you working on? I'm hoping to be inspired here today, so I'd love to hear what you're all doing. Because I think often we come to the stream and then I'm kind of building stuff, but I'd really love to know what you're all doing. So let me know. And yes, that is correct. They are lightsabers behind me. No other weapons, just lightsabers. So that's, yes, I'm a big Star Wars geek, hence the collection. But one did fall down, as you can see there, and it's still on the floor. I need to go and try and fix it and put it back up. So that is on my list of things to do at some point. That's the nice to go and have list. Yes, so I think what we'll do to kick off with is we'll do our normal setup. We will go through really what's happened in terms of GitHub releases. And I figured we'd do it for the last couple of weeks because
because obviously I wasn't here last week. So yeah, so what would that be? 2 weeks ago would be the 6th, if my maths is right. So I'm just going to scroll down on the changelog and I'll bring that up in just a moment. Let me see in the chat. So DevGod, US working on a React Native mobile app for photographers, content creators. That's really cool. I haven't played with React Native myself. I think the last mobile dev stuff I did was back in XAML, actually. And I think before that was probably Objective-C. So that kind of shows how little mobile app dev I've done recently. So it's been a while, but that is cool. I'm assuming it's then something, in terms of creating, etc. Obviously, I don't want you to give all the ideas away, but that's interesting. Sounds like a fun project. Awesome. Yeah, let me know what other projects you're working on. It's just super interesting to kind of see what everyone is doing because, as we know from development, right, there's so many opportunities and so many things we can go and build. I'm just always interested to see what everyone's doing. So, yeah, DevGod, thank you for sharing. Let me. Okay, and then T3. Based in Germany, and you help dentists keep track of their equipment. So inventory management and thinking about some really interesting scenarios there. I can imagine, if equipment has been sanitized and things like that, and kind of health of equipment as well, because obviously, health is important, and making sure that everything is well maintained is important in that scenario. So that's another interesting one. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. And yeah, as you're all joining in, folks, we're just getting started here, just understanding where everyone's tuning in from today and just what you're working on at the minute. Because, as we've said before, this stream is very relaxed. This stream is all about just kind of hanging out, doing a bit of learning together. It's understanding what you're working on and working on some projects ourselves here as well. And I'm always happy to be swayed in another direction if we want to work on something else. So that's why I'm keen, just to see what everyone's doing, because maybe we'll take some inspiration from that and go in another direction here as well. In the meantime, interesting. Very interesting. Building a Sanskrit language learning app. 100 days of Sanskrit. Wow. That's fascinating. Are you doing some kind of AI-based stuff with that as well to kind of get that language piece? Is that like a domain expertise that you've got? Like, that is really unique and fascinating. On my bingo card of ideas that I would have expected, that would not have been on there. So that is very cool. That is very cool. And if you're happy to share more in the chat, please do. I'm sure we'd all love to hear and learn more. And good morning, Anthony. Good morning, folks. Good morning, Netsite. Good morning, Raj. Good morning, everyone who's been putting greetings in the chat here. Yeah, please continue dropping in where you're tuning in from and what projects you're working on, and we'll get those all shouted out here as we go through. So, as I mentioned, I wasn't here last week, so I figured we'd do a bit of a roundup to the last couple of weeks. And I Heart Coding, to your question, is this being streamed elsewhere? Yes, it is. We are streaming to the GitHub YouTube page, the GitHub LinkedIn page, and Twitch, of course, because you're on Twitch. There we go. That's how you know. I knew I missed one. So yeah, those 3 platforms. That's where we're streaming live right now. And yeah, of course, no problems at all. I don't think there's a way for you to kind of see the chats happening across all platforms, but this is why I keep liking to shout out what everyone is saying in the chat, and why it's so nice to see the interaction in the chat as well, because we've got people on different platforms, and it's bringing us all together as a developer community, and that's really important. So please continue speaking up in the chat, and then I'll keep kind of shouting out here. Oh, good morning. Hello, hello. Been building an ML app for the repopulation of rural towns in Spain. Some of these projects are so fascinating. Um, and this is what I love about development is y- we have the power to kind of solve all of these varieties of different problems with technology, right? Like I've always been a big believer that technology isn't there for the sake of it. We're there to solve problems, and um, yeah, it's been really fascinating. Some of these ideas coming up. Hello, Alexandra. Good morning. And UK here. 13 days off work. Lead developer of a big company in UK. Working on my personal project for the next 13 days, a SaaS platform I've been building for holiday park bookings. Awesome. There we go. I've always had ideas of, building a SaaS platform, but my challenge is always there's so many different ideas that I want to go and solve, and then it's trying to scope it down to what problem it is that I want to go and solve. And yeah, I feel like I always get distracted and like the next new shiny thing. But that's how I learn personally. So um, yeah, but interesting. I was actually chatting with a friend on the weekend, and we were talking about just some ideas of something we could build for a bit of fun as well. And we didn't get very far. We just started talking about ideas and started going off on tangents as we do, right? So yeah, ideas are the first part, I think. I'm from Bangladesh, just going through the algorithms of machine learning and also working with LLMA. Awesome. Well, obviously very hot topics right now, thinking about machine learning and large language models and AI. So, um, yeah, great to see that you're focusing on that. And is there something in particular that has surprised you that has been really interesting that you've learned? As you've been doing that, let us know. Put it in the chat. I'm sure we can all learn together. Have I used GitHub Agent to solve some real problems? So I'm assuming you're talking about GitHub Copilot agent mode? And the answer is yes. Um, and this is um, last time we were on a stream a couple of weeks ago, I showed you a little bit of a project I was working on, a game called Octosnap, where we had like the different Octocat images, and you could kind of pair them up, and you had this game score. If you didn't see that, check out that recording, and I'll put it in the chat if you're interested as well. Um, But that was an example of using agent mode and really going down the path of solving that real problem of how do I build a model for leaderboard scoring and calculating the score of how you did in the game. Because there's so many ways, again, when you think of this real simple problem, that you can break these problems down. Like I could just score for every time a person got a flip right. We could do a negative score every time they got it wrong. But I had this really complex kind of combination of like the time taken, whether it was easy, medium, or hard, what duration they selected, how many wrong clicks they got into this really um, really not complex, but succinct model. And agent mode helped me kind of implement that, iterate on that, and work on that. And I was like the person, I was the pilot, I was the one navigating and steering the direction. So that was one example. But the reason I started off with that one is, of course, as we are as devs, we always like kind of working on things as well. And over the last few weeks, over the last week while I was off, I also worked on that project a bit as well and built a leaderboard system. So um, I'll show you that if there's interest. Equally, I'm happy to jump back onto the command line stuff that we were working on as well with the game, or do something completely different because I had some other ideas of things as well. So, yeah, let me know what you want to jump into today, folks, and we can do that. Alexandra, study artificial intelligence. Not so long ago, you decided to switch to Linux. Best decision. However, still learning how to properly use Arch Linux. I do find there's like a subset of commands that I know of how to go and do things. And in fact, actually, here's maybe a tip for you. I'm going to just bring something up on my screen, and then I'll share my screen. Let's see. Okay, cool. I'm going to share my screen. Boop. And hopefully you can see my terminal. I'm going to make it full screen just so it's a bit easier for you to go and see as well. So I'm running on a Mac. I'm not running on a pure Linux OS here. But you could go ahead, if you're still learning, by the way, how to use Linux and whatnot. There may be those times where you've got those questions of how do I go and do X? How do I go and do Y? So as we've said many times on this stream before, we've got this GH command line utility, and you can go and interact with GitHub using that. And one of the extensions that is available is Copilot on the command line as well. And you can see that with Copilot, there's a couple of different commands that you can go and use. So suggest, which is taking that natural language thing of what you want to go and do and translating that into what the commands would be. But then you've got explain, which is a bit like, if I've got the command, how do I figure out what it actually does? So we could say something like gh copilot suggest. What could we go and do here? It's always a struggle to think of things off the top of your head. I think by default is something like FFmpeg and videos and things like that. So how can I use suggest use FFmpeg to split the MP4 file, my video.mp4, in each directory below this one. You can see I'm trying to deliberately make something a bit tricky here. So to split the audio tracks out below this one. So that is like a command that I wouldn't remember off the top of my head. You can see then what it does is it asks you, is that a generic shell command? Is that a GH command, so something on the GitHub command line, or even a git command here as well? It's a generic shell command. So we can see now, right, we're going to find my video.mp4, execute FFmpeg, and map the tracks in the audio file, copy them to a separate audio track there. I don't think that's quite right because it's looking in the current directory. So I might say something like, I think that command only works on the current directory. Is there a way I can run it recursively, please? Maybe not on that one, but let me explain that command because maybe I've misunderstood it actually. There we go. So what does it do? Find starts searching for files in the current directory. Oh, there we go. I've learned something. So find searches for current directory and subdirectories. There we go. Specifies what we're looking for, and execute the commands on each file found, run the commands in a shell, a new shell, FFmpeg, etc., etc. So you can see that is a way that you could go and use Copilot to go and help you learn how to go and execute things on the command line, right? And then you can even go and explain that like we just did. We can go and execute. We can revise that as well. And you can even do it for things like gh explain, how do I reset my repository, my local repositories, main branch to the version on the remote origin. Oh, I didn't put Copilot in there. Oops. There we go. Oh. And this is why it's so important to think about, oops, let me remove that, to think about like the prompt and what you're asking for, because my prompt was vague. It couldn't quite figure out what it was that we wanted to go and do. So again, everything that we've worked on over the last few weeks in terms of talking about prompt engineering, thinking about context, thinking about how you word your questions, what you include as context, is all really important. So, what I did there was a bit vague and didn't really get a great answer out of that. And it's just a case of then iterating on that and iterating on that. So anyway, this was a complete digression. This was a complete side path that we were going down here. But hopefully that's useful, Alexandra, in terms of using Copilot to go and learn some of those Linux commands. So as you are trying things out, maybe maybe you can do a bit of rubber ducking with Copilot on commands. And of course, always review, always check what the outputs are. And that's what I like about that experience with the command line, is you have the ability to explain what the command does as well. Like, please don't run any rm-fr. I'm sure you all know about this, but if you did something like gh copilot explain, and that's why it didn't work. I did explain rather than suggest, so we'll go back to that. And normally what I've seen in the past, there we go, is this, for example, the danger warning. So never run this command. This is bad. This is a bad command. It'll basically remove all files and directories in the system. So don't do that. Do not run that command. But you can see that it comes up with this danger warning here as well, which I thought was quite nice. So yeah, just interesting to go and see that. Let me jump back to this one earlier, because I realized it was my mistake. I used explain, not suggest. So suggest, how do I reset my local repository's main branch? And it's a git command. Okay, so it's just quite simply fetching the origin, doing a hard reset on origin main. And then if we wanted to go and understand what reset does, there we go. Git reset resets the current branch to match the state of the main branch on the origin. --hard, if you didn't know what that means, it means it will discard local changes in the working directory and staging area. So you can see how just having that GH Copilot in the command line just helps us with that kind of thinking and exploring those ideas of what those commands are. So anyway, I've digressed enough. So hopefully that helps. Anyway, back to some updates. And hello, folks. Hello, everyone who's been joining here whilst we've been chatting. Welcome. So what has gone on over the last few weeks? This is where I put my glasses on, because otherwise this will be this will be painful for everyone. So here we go. Copilot chat users can now use the vision input in VS Code and Visual Studio in public preview. So we showed that a few weeks ago when we did our rock, paper, scissors, lizard, spot game. We had rock, paper, scissors. I drew all of the combinations of the ways that things can win. And Copilot Vision was able to interpret that, understand that, and implement rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock for us. I think we did that about 3 weeks ago, maybe. So if you're interested, take a look at that session. But that's now available in preview. Right, GitHub Copilot updates in VS Code February release, improvements to agent mode, and next edit suggestions, general availability of custom instructions, and more. And this is just a nice, helpful key, by the way. So experimental, feature is still in development, not ready for general use. Preview, being refined, but you can use it. And then stable is ready for general use then as well. So agent mode looks like there's still some experimental pieces happening there. It's available in Visual Studio Code Insiders, and that's where I've been using it. And there's some improvements to the UX of tool usage. So keeping track of which commands will run, since terminal commands are now shown in line. This is quite cool, actually. I haven't had an opportunity to try this out yet, but you can, I think, edit the commands in line, which is nice. So yeah, edit the suggested terminal commands. And you can confirm the terminal command with Control-Enter as well. So there's been some improvements there to agent mode, notebook support in Copilot edits in preview. So if you're on that data science side of things and do a lot of work with Jupyter notebooks, then yeah, you might be able to start using Copilot edits there. Refined editor integration. So polish the integration of Copilot edits with code and notebook editors. Nice. So again, just lots of quality of life enhancements there. Custom instructions are generally available. So if you want to, if there's like certain conventions, certain things that you want to be in place across all of those requests within the repo, then you can use the Copilot instructions file. So you can go and take a look at that. And yeah, lots and lots of different pieces. There's a lot of updates there. So I don't think we're going to go through all of those because there's so many updates we need to get through anyway. But yeah, that was a good update last month. A couple of weeks ago. There we go. Personal custom instructions for Copilot are now generally available on github.com. So again, if you're on github.com using Copilot there, you can set up your personal instructions over there. And you can tailor like the role, the kind of communication you want, preferences, whatnot there as well. So yeah, if you always want to, use a certain framework or always respond in a certain language or something like that, you can go and put those preferences there as well. GPT 4.0 Copilot, the March update. So, and I guess there's maybe another update coming in April then as well, by the looks of it, from this line. But 4.0 Copilot, we've done a bit of work on the channel on this stream before as well. I must say, it's very quick. The suggestions seem good as well. They've come back. I can't remember if it was during a stream or while I was off, but I was writing a load of tests. And it was just one shot where I had the other file open, like in terms of the implementation. It was one shot getting the tests correct. And they weren't like simple tests. There was a bit of thinking required behind each of them. So it was really impressive, actually, seeing what was coming back. Let's see, what else have we got? GitHub issues and projects, API support for issues, advanced search, and more. Nice. So if you want to go and use the GitHub API, so the REST API there by the looks of it, and the GraphQL API as well, great. To go and use the advanced search capabilities that came out for issues recently, you can now go and do that. And from September the 4th of this year, all issue queries will use advanced search by default. So I guess there's a kind of a change that's going to be happening there then. Timeline of events for issue types and issue types for private repositories only will be retired. Okay, cool. What else have we got? Onboarding additional model providers with GitHub Copilot for Claude Sonnet models in public preview. Okay, so onboarding Google Cloud Platform and Anthropic as providers of the public preview models for Claude 3.5 and 3.7 Sonnet. So yeah, working across different providers there. DeepSeek v3 is now generally available in GitHub Models. So if you're using GitHub Models, go and check that out. This one's a big one, actually. Enterprise-owned GitHub apps are now generally available. So now you can, if you're unfamiliar, there's different ways that you can kind of authenticate with GitHub and interact with GitHub. And one of those is by doing things like OAuth, etc., having personal access tokens. But one of them is using GitHub apps. And one of the things that I've heard a few times this would be great if an enterprise could own the GitHub app itself. And what is interesting is this part here as well, this second line. Organizations and users can now transfer private visibility apps to their enterprise, where they'll become usable by the entire enterprise. So yeah, that's a really, really great quality of life update there. To see that one coming. So really good to see that. Quick actions tasks is now generally available in the GitHub models playground. So I quite like this example here. If we just scroll down, you can see that we've got this little pencil icon, and I'm just going to pause when it comes up. You can either edit the prompt, or you can cite sources in the response, make responses cheaper, or make responses faster. So it's a nice way to be able to kind of experiment and move between those different models there as well. So if you're not trying GitHub models yet, it might be worth giving it a go. GitHub Enterprise Server 3.16 is now generally available. So yeah, I think we talked about that one before when it was the golden image or the kind of release-ready image was out. So we'll skip past that one. CodeQL adds support for Java 24. And other improvements. Let's see what we got. CodeQL supports Java version 24. Added support for the response threat model, which can be enabled with advanced setup for JavaScript and TypeScript. Improved precision of data flow through arrays. Nice. Improved accuracy of the CPP, C++, static buffer overflow query. Improved precision. And remove the query and version immutable actions. Okay, cool. Of course, Copilot for Xcode Chat is now generally available as well. That came out last week. Last week, yes. GitHub Copilot Chat for Eclipse is now in public preview. So Eclipse developers, you've also got, I'm sure, there we go, code completions are generally available. So if you're working with Eclipse, you've now got Copilot code completions generally available, and you've got Copilot Chat in preview. So some great updates there for you folks. Secret scanning, experimental alerts, getting renamed to generic alerts. So I guess, let's see there, non-provider patterns and Copilot secret scanning were made generally available in October 2024. And they've been iterated to reach level of quality from the provider-based patterns. These alerts are not considered experimental and should be remediated in accordance with the organization's standard policies. And Damien, great question there. Is GitHub Copilot available for Xcode? Yes, it is. So code completions, I think, has been generally available since last month, I want to say. But now Chat is also generally available in Xcode as well. So yes, you can go and try that out. So go and take a look at the changelog here, and you will find that you can go and use the steps here to go and install it and sign in with your GitHub account then as well. So yes, it's available. So go and check that out. Let's see, what else have we got here? Refreshed commit details page now generally available. So comment counts in the tree. Oh, that's nice actually. Seeing the comments on the sidebar, I like that. Floating comments are now there. You can instantly switch between unified and split views without waiting for a page reload. Nice. Good quality of life changes. Keyboard navigation in diffs. Nice. And filtering. Okay. And some fixes and enhancements there as well. Good stuff. And then for those of you who are using GitHub as an enterprise, so you've got an enterprise account, you may have noticed that the enterprise view is a little more kind of integrated feeling now. It's consistent with the rest of GitHub, so you now get it in kind of the overall GitHub UI. Excuse me, and you've got this kind of horizontal navigation bar now as well. And those changes are expected to land in 3.17 GitHub Enterprise Server if you're using that version. Instant semantic code search indexing now generally available for GitHub Copilot. This sounds like an interesting update. Previously, when you wanted GitHub Copilot to reference your repository's code and its responses, Semantic code search indexing process will take about 5 minutes to complete. With this update, indexing now completes in just a few seconds in most cases, so it might take up to 60 seconds. Nice. So getting good kind of contextually aware responses in a timely manner. Nice. So semantic code search is effectively when you ask some of those questions where you need to understand kind of the context and knowledge of the code base. Semantic code search is one of those capabilities that Copilot will use for like retrieval augmented generation, because the underlying language model doesn't really understand like your code base. It has to bring that in as context. So that's what this semantic code search thing is doing. And that process generally is called retrieval augmented generation. So that's what's going on here. So that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Depending on version updates, now supports UV in general availability. So if you're using UV as a package manager, there you go. It's now supported in Dependabot. Great to see it. Actions performance metrics are now generally available, and enterprise level metrics are in public preview. So again, if you're just trying to keep up to date with how your workflow runs are going, the total minutes that you're using, where you might have, let's say, some optimization opportunities, you can use actions performance metrics for that. So great to see that. GitHub is now PCI DSS v4 compliant with our 4.0 service provider attestation available to customers. So probably more for the enterprise customers. Anyone who's enterprise listening in there, you might already be aware of that one, but a good update there too. This one's kind of cool. So maybe today we'll do a bit in copilot.com or GitHub models, or we can go and take a look at some of the older stuff we were working on as well, with the games and whatnot. But in Copilot chat, in .com, so in GitHub.com, you can now preview your rendered HTML files directly in the side panel. That's kind of a nice quality of life upgrade. Edit files in the side panel, seamlessly refine and adjust them, generate and preview mermaid diagrams, keep tabs on your issues, track issues or pull requests and responses. So it's, I guess, a lot more integrated in terms of that experience. Nice. We'll maybe go and take a look at that. GitHub Actions now supports a digest for validating your artifacts at runtime. Developers using upload artifact and download artifact can now ensure the integrity with the new SHA-25/6 digest. This feature automatically verifies that the upload is identical to the one downloaded. Ooh, that is nice. Providing security for actions runs and ensuring the actions remain unchanged. Nice. Okay, good. So something helpful there on the supply chain side. GitHub Enterprise import and maintenance notice. So on Tuesday, March the 18th, which has already gone. Yeah, that's already gone. There would be some maintenance. So that's already in the past, so we can move on. This is cool. I did see this one the other day, and I do like this one. Starting March the 29th, so in, 2 weeks? Next week? Week and a half. There we go. Fine-grained personal access tokens and GitHub accessing the GitHub Models Playground will require the Models read permission. So if your tokens do not include that permission, it will return unauthorized. So it's just part of that whole tightening up of access there. So really nice to see that. And related is that fine-grained personal access tokens are now generally available. This is awesome. I've spoken with so many folks around this one. I know that this has been an area that people have wanted to see go generally available, and it's great to see that it's there. So there are two types of tokens that you can use, personal access tokens on GitHub. There's kind of the classic version, where it was quite broad in terms of the access that you gave. Whereas now with fine-grained personal access tokens, you can target that based on specific scopes, even down to repositories. And then the permissions that you can grant are a lot more granular as well. So it really gives you, as the name implies, a lot of fine-grained control. And that is now generally, according to this changelog, the kind of recommended way to go and use personal access tokens. It does say that there are still some feature gaps there. So calling APIs that manage the enterprise object, addressing multiple organizations with a single token, accessing internal repos outside of a targeted organization, contributing to repos via an outside collaborator, calling the packages and checks APIs. And it looks like they're continuing to work on that as well. So good to see that. Good to see that update. And then finally, GitHub issues and projects, REST API support for issue types. So again, if you like automating things and you like calling the REST APIs, good news, you can now go and use the REST API to go and manage issue types. So issue types are things like, hey, I've got an epic, I've got a feature, I've got a bug. It's a way of being able to categorize the types of issues that you've got. So now there's the ability to go and manage those through the API, which is great. So yeah, lots of good quality of life updates there over the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to pause because that was a lot. There's a lot to take in there. And I'm going to see what's going on in the chat. So question here, GitHub Copilot CLI is installed from a repo, right? And then want it labeled as GH in brew, was looking for GitHub. Yeah, so there's a load of different ways that you can install first the GitHub CLI, because there's two parts to it. So the GitHub CLI is like kind of the core command line for interacting with GitHub. So you can do things like checking out your PRs, cloning repos, etc., etc. It's kind of the way that you interact with GitHub on the command line. But then what you can then go and do is you can install extensions. So if I jump back to my terminal, I realized I wasn't sharing my screen. So cli.github.com, you can go there and it'll pop up with the way that it makes sense to download for your operating system. To get access to Copilot on the command line then, you can do this GH extension. And when I do a GH extension list, you can see the extensions that I've installed. One of those is GH Copilot. If we actually go to, just going to check before I go to it. Yeah. There we go. That's the right repository. It gives you some information on how to get started with GitHub Copilot in the CLI then as well. So authenticating with the CLI, installing or upgrading the extension, and then going with it, just using it. So it's a nice kind of setup experience there. So again, all you need to do is GH extension install github/gh-copilot after you've installed the GitHub CLI, and then you should be good to go. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question there, DevGod. So yeah, it's that's how you go and get that set. So we've got a few options in terms of what we can do here. We can either go and explore GitHub models, maybe. We can go and do GitHub Copilot in github.com and take a look at that. We could go and build something else in our command line game. Or we could take a peek at what I was building last week with the leaderboard and maybe do some refactoring on how I'm authenticating to the database and use some managed identities rather than passwords and tokens and whatnot, or something like that. So we've got a few options, and I'm really flexible, or we could do something completely different and we can just chat, because I think there were some great projects at the beginning of the stream that people were working on. So we can also chat around things that you're all doing and working on as well. So let me know which of those options you would prefer, and we can go and dive into one of those. So you use GitHub Copilot and Visual Studio Code. It's very good. Good. I'm very glad to hear that. That's primarily how I use GitHub Copilot as well. I do a lot of my work in Visual Studio Code, and yeah, it's a great experience. And I've really been enjoying agent mode, actually, in particular. I've been using that a lot lately. So yeah, let's I think let's go and show you what I was working on. So here is my VS Code, and I'm going to just run my local instance of my app, and I'll show you what I've been working on. There we go. So, from a couple of weeks ago, you might remember I showed you this game called Octosnap. So, before we jump into that, I have made some changes. Again, we know this as devs. We get an idea, we build, we iterate, we build, we iterate, and then scope creep happens. So now, rather than just being very loud, rather than being just one game, I've decided, wouldn't it be cool if we made an arcade of games? So I did a bit of refactoring, and I've set it up in a way now that I can easily put multiple games into that kind of arcade. And so currently we just have Octosnap, but in the future, maybe it would be multiple games as well. So again, this is just a bit of a pet project, not published anywhere at the moment. It might be something that hopefully we can get published officially. Otherwise, I'll find some route to get samples and versions of this out there. But you can see here, Octosnap, if I go and click on that, we now have this leaderboard, and unsurprisingly, I'm probably the one playing the game most. I've had a few kind of colleagues and friends try it out as well, but I'm the main one playing it at the moment. So we can see the top scores there. And again, we've got easy and medium hard. Let's go for medium, and you can see how the game works. And you'll see there's some UI changes since last time as well. So we go and match those. No, that one. I think that one was there. Uh-oh. That one was there. No, you were there. It's really hard to multitask when you're doing this. Really hard. There we go. Great. So we got a score of 115. Awesome. So what happens then is I can go and type in my GitHub handle. It will go and fetch my avatar, and I can submit the score. And the beauty then is we can go to the leaderboard, and we can see all of the instances of running on that. It's funny, I spotted a bug actually, that I don't strip the @ symbol of the username. Maybe that's one we can fix here now. And there's a few bugs, I've got not a number of entries at the moment. On the second page, I'm not correctly putting numbers here as well. So there's a few things that I need to go and work on that I have done locally. I haven't pushed it up. Sorry, that I have done locally in another branch. I haven't pushed it up yet. But yeah, this is all now being stored in a database. Previously, I had a version which was running on local storage, whereas now if I hosted it on a different app or somewhere else, now we've got that state elsewhere. So that is what I was working on a little bit last week, is this kind of leaderboard. And yeah, it's coming along. I think the interesting thing is now thinking about how I architect this up so that there's like a generic leaderboard kind of model or structure or entity, if you like, and then how different games will have different leaderboards. Like in Octosnap, you need to understand how many pairs there were, and the time the user selected, the time they completed in, what their final score was. Whereas if we did a game like, I don't know, something like Space Invaders or Snake or whatever, they're each going to be scored in very different ways. So I've needed to think about like what is common across all those games and what will kind of be coming, and what is specific, and how do we then think about like relationships between those entities and interfaces and all of those kind of things, right? So it's just been an interesting problem to go and think through. So that's what I was working on. So let's do this. Let's jump back to VS Code Insiders. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to say fix that symbol. I have noticed a bug when a user inputs their GitHub handle on the leaderboard. If they put the at symbol in front, the system will search for that sound with the at symbol. We should make this more robust so that if the user does submit their username at the front, then that should be stripped. So the backend API should do a sanity check for this. Actually, let me think about this. When do I do that? That will be in the UI as a client call. We don't really do any backend checks, so maybe we need a backend validation check as well. So at the point of entry, to make sure the correct user has been identified, ideally add some validation of some sort to confirm. So when we save the leaderboard, check that the username does not begin with an at. Well, now I think about it, I don't know if it's possible to have a GitHub username begin with an at. Either way, let's go and assume that this is correct for now anyway. So help you implement these changes to make the GitHub handle input more robust. So you'll notice I didn't put any real context in terms of what files that we should go and use or where that implementation is. This is where it starts using some of these tools to go and search the code base and understand what is there. So first, let's update the GitHub handle input component, handle the at symbol stripping, and add validation. Okay. Let me go and take a look at that. So we handle the input change, and I've got a linting fix that I need to go and put in there. So we're just going to paste that with double quotes. And similar here too. Okay, good. So if the handle includes the at, don't do that. I don't know if that will do it exactly as we'd want it. But again, this is why context is important. How you phrase your questions, what you want it to go and do. So let's go see. Here we go. We're doing good things here. Do not store your secrets in code. Don't do it. Please don't do it. Now we've had that conversation, you can see what I'm doing here is I am passing in, and come back, passing in the connection strings as environment variables, so not storing it as a secret in code. Because the moment that you put that secret into your code, just consider it as though it's been leaked. Consider it as though there's a breach. Because what happens if you flip that repository to public in the future, if it's a private repository? Someone can go back in history, find the password, find the connection string. If you haven't rotated it and updated it, it's exposed. Equally, if your account got breached, if another developer or user's account got breached, they can go and see the secrets. So make sure you store your secrets in a good way. So injecting them through environment variables and those types of things as well. What I actually want to do with this one is not use secrets at all, because I'm using Cosmos DB on Azure. I want to go and use managed identities and use an identity authentication instead. So I need to look into that, if that's a good route or a possible route or not. But yeah, that's my talk of please don't store your secrets in code. So let's validate the GitHub handle format. Why are we moving that down? Sure. Why? Oh, because I guess it's putting validation ahead of establishing the connection. That's fair enough. Fail early, I suppose. Don't do the connection if it's not needed. Fair enough. Okay, I can see that. I kind of like that, actually. Fair play. I like that. Right, so then it's added some tests as well. So strips the @ symbol from the start of the handles. Prevents submission of handles containing the submission. So enter your GitHub handle, submit the button. Yeah, and this is what I was mentioning. I can't remember what is allowed in terms of a GitHub handle. So this is checking, and again, the test is valid because I wasn't specific enough in what I asked for. It's asked, it's trying for the @ symbol midway in the username. But for now, we'll go with that. But I might need to go and tweak that. But yeah, that's exactly what I said earlier. It should return 400 when a GitHub handle contains the @ symbol. So 400, is that what we're... Yep, we're returning 400, okay. Seems reasonable. Let's go and see then. Great. 46 test suites passed, 385 tests, all in 9 seconds. Tests are good. The amount of times the tests have saved me when I've been writing this and when I've been refactoring has been very good, actually. So please write tests. This is a good stream today, isn't it? Don't put your secrets in code. Please write tests. There we go. Some good lessons there. Right, let's go and try this. Let's go and do another game here. Oh. You were there. No, you were there. You were there. You were there. There we go. It's funny, when you keep playing this game, I think you do get better at it. So anyway, let's try this. And no, this is so to your question, Charles, GitHub has games. Not yet. This is just a little pet project I've been working on. So something fun that we can use on the stream, but hoping that it's something that we could look into releasing. So watch this space, but just something that we're trying out for now. What's interesting now is I can't even type the @ symbol. But did it actually block the key entry somehow? Ah, yeah, that's what it's doing. Okay. I misinterpreted what that line was doing. So it's anytime that the input element changes, so I put an @ symbol in, it just replaces it with a blank string. So we're never allowed to put the @ symbol in there. So again, if there's a scenario where you can have an @ symbol in the name, this might be a bit heavy. But it does what I need it to do. I can't put the @ symbol there. So Chris Wellington, there we go. Yeah, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea how agent mode can kind of help with those types of things. So I'm going to do some digging afterwards and see if that is like legit a solution to that problem, or if that's maybe a bit of a heavy answer, because I can't remember what is allowed in a GitHub handle. I'm sure it's documented somewhere, so maybe that's something I just need to implement, is better validation of what kind of symbols and characters and things are in there as well. Yeah. So I guess what we could do maybe in future streams, if there's interest in kind of evolving what we've been doing. I know we were doing a lot of games on the command line before. Maybe we do some UI-based games as well. Like I've got this idea of like Space Invaders, but with like bugs, like there's a bug, and you're kind of protecting your code from the bugs, or like a vulnerability or something. Like I think there's something there that could be kind of fun as like a dev game. So I might go and try that one out. That could be fun. Yeah, but what other games could we make? What other games would you all be interested in? Let me know. Let me know. Let's do maybe one more thing before we finish up. I'm going to just jump across to here. And I'll share my screen. There we go. So I'm just curious, who has already used GitHub models? Would I use something like Three.js for the bugs? Could do, Matty. Honestly, I haven't thought about it at all. I think that game is going to be a lot more involved in terms of like kind of graphics and things like that. And that's the part I haven't thought about at all. I've just been thinking about like just what ideas there are. So I haven't thought about that one at all yet. So yeah, if there's ideas, if there's suggestions, that could be interesting. Because I was thinking maybe more. I was thinking maybe more a 2D game. But I guess with Three.js, there could be a 3D element to it, possibly. I was thinking something 2D. Scope group. Maybe we could do something something there. It's a good thought, though. It's a good thought. Yeah, who has already used GitHub models? How have you been finding it? What have you been kind of using it for. If we just jump back to the marketplace, but you'll see when you come to the marketplace, you have these different options. So, Copilot for the Copilot extensions, apps for GitHub apps, and then actions, obviously, for the actions marketplace. But when you click on models, you get into this model playground. And you can go and take a look at the model catalog here and different models that are available. We can get started pretty quickly. So we could go and, you know what? I know what we're going to do. Let's use GitHub models to help us make our game. And when I say make, I don't mean in terms of code. I mean in terms of just thinking about the structure, the architecture, the designs, etc. And this is an excellent, excellent question, Matty. Are models used for prototyping AI applications? Yeah, that's kind of the idea behind GitHub models. So a way that you could, if you're building an AI-based application and you wanted to go and try experiments with different models, you could go and use GitHub models for that. And the beauty then is you can click on this green button here, and you can either get a developer key from GitHub to be able to use that, and it really is intended for not production. Basically, it's intended for that kind of experimentation, trying to build out your app. But then when you decide, hey, I want to go and productionize this, there's a path that you can go on then to go and use the Azure AI service then as well, and use the models from there. It gives you a number of different examples how you can get this set up in code as well. So if we just do an example here of something like, and let's do this. You are an expert game designer for web-based games. You do not write code, but you write suggestions on how to structure your project. Directory. For example, which open source packages may be useful, which services might be useful to host the game, and general software architecture. I don't know, something like this. What I like about GitHub models is you've got this system prompt, and system prompts are one of the ways you interact with AI models. Then you have your user prompt. So this is like the generic or the kind of system guidance, if you like. We can click on that, and I would like to say, I want to go and improve what that prompt does. So please, what would I like to improve? Make sure the system prompt provides clarity, simplicity, predictable. I don't know. I'm really struggling at the minute. Right. So we can improve that prompt. So you're an expert game designer specializing in web-based games using HTML and JavaScript. Your role is to provide detailed suggestions on structuring game. So if I was building an app, for example, that did this, here's how you could go and build the game that you want to go and use. We could go and do that. So then we can obviously go and control how we want to go and use that model. But I could say, right, how could I build a GitHub Space Invaders game? There we go. main entry point, the game script, the assets that we might need, pull requests. Interesting. Okay. But then what's nice is we can either change the response to be cheaper, so going for different models, or we can make the response faster then as well. So yeah, think about GitHub models as a way that we can go and experiment with these AI models. So let's say that we wanted to go, and let's do this again. But instead of that game example, let's do something like, let's build an app. Let's build an educational app. In fact, let's come up with ideas in the chat. What kind of app could we build if we were using AI in it? And what might we want to go and generate? Let's do something around computer science concepts. Just given the nature of who we've got here, I think. So you are a expert computer science tutor. Your role is to create targeted questions to help a student learn more about a topic. The app is a quiz-based app for a user to test their knowledge from their studies. A user will give you a topic, and you must provide 5 questions in a true-false format. If they're either true-false format, multiple choice, something like that. And let's have the response as JSON because we'd want to feed it into an app. Well, let's improve that prompt and say something like, make sure that the app only responds to computer science-based questions. So we can improve that prompt. Nice, that prompt looks good. And then if we do something like, what can we do? Make sure there is, oh, I know, let's do this. If the user gets the answer wrong, then there should be additional information available to be displayed to their learning. So you can see we're just kind of going through this process of iterating on the prompt so that we kind of get what we want to. Okay, let's try that. So let's also then compare GPT-4o Mini with 4o. maybe let's not do 4. Let's do that one. There we go. And then just going to check. Uh-oh, did I lose my... I think I lost my... Uh-oh. I lost my prompt. Okay, never mind. We can do this again. Let's do 5.3 mini instruct, 3.5 mini instruct. Let's add the system prompt. So we'll have it in JSON, and we'll say you are a expert computer science tutor who writes questions for students to help check knowledge on. We must only respond to tutor and likely decline to respond outside of that. Right. Let's see. Your task is to create 5 questions on the student's topic. They can answer either in a true, false, or multiple choice style. We must also provide information that can be used if the user gets the question. I'm just going to go back. I'm going to improve that prompt first. Increase the clarity of the request. Make it explicit that the model should not respond outside the scope of computer science questions. When responding, the information should be sent back to the app as question, options, correct answer, additional information. Okay. Great. Let's take that prompt now. And I'm just going to put that here just in case. So we'll compare that. So we'll look at 4.0 mini and we'll look at 5.3.5 mini instruct. Sure. That system prompt there. It will respond back in JSON. And I'll go for that. And I assume, there we go, that the other model has the same. I would like to learn about, we have just learned about binary search trees. Please could you make my understanding? Oh. Please adjust your input message or system prompt to include the word JSON. Oh. Okay, let me try again. Rather than use the mini models, let me try this. GPT-4.0. And we'll say each question must include the following components and in a JSON form. So we'll go and compare. Oro with let me go through all models actually and see how they compare. Explore a reason task, so that's a reasoning model. V3 could be interesting. And maybe llama as well. So let's try something like llama and Seek. Okay, so I'm going to do this. We'll keep with 4.0 for now. Then we'll add that JSON. I would like to learn about. We have just learned binary search things. Please can you help me understand a bit more? My knowledge. There we go. Let's try that. Great. Right. So now you can kind of see where we're going here. So with GitHub models, you can see that what we've been able to do is, and again, this is all fictitious, but imagine that we were building an app which helped students learn. So they put in a topic that they've just learned about, and then that app uses AI to help them in some way. So you might, for example, not just rely on the base model. Maybe you would have some kind of grounding of information, use retrieval augmented generation possibly. But using something like GitHub models, we can then start to compare the different responses, and we can see, right, interestingly, GPT-4o has just responded with JSON, whereas DeepSeek v3 has put a little bit of like a response ahead of the JSON as well in natural language. So the binary search tree, the left child of a node contains keys that are always less than the keys in the parent node. Correct, because it's always kind of done in halves. Or in theory, well, the node would always be to the left. Depends if it's balanced, whether it would always be halves. But anyway, true is correct. Fundamental property of a binary search tree. Left child's keys are less than the parent's keys, ensuring sorted order BST traversal. Okay. Okay. Similar kind of question on the right. Any less than those values, this property is fundamental to maintain the BST structure. So again, kind of similar answers there. Which traversal method of a binary search tree will produce a sorted sequence of elements? It's got that one there as well. It's fascinating how the questions there. So in visits left subtree, then the node itself. Left to right by first visiting left subtree. Yep. So again, between these two, the answers and the questions we're getting are quite similar. Balanced binary search tree. Can it have duplicate elements? Interesting. So you've got some on there on like, I guess, time complexity. Yeah, time complexity. It's interesting how there's very slight wording differences. Like this one says, what is the worst case time complexity? Whereas this one is asking just what is the time complexity? Oh, in the worst case. Never mind. I take that back. The question was worded just slightly differently. Yeah, and then obviously we could go and run the same thing. What could we do? What else should we do? Just trying to think of something different as a example here. We could do something like, let's do data structures. Data structures is always a good one. We have just learned about data structures. Particularly around arrays, perhaps key value is and heaps. Please, can you help me check my understanding? That's an interesting difference here, that I guess there's no settings in Llama models here, so we'd need to get that context into the system from the system settings, because there is no system settings here. Interesting. So there's a question from Matty. It took different amounts of time to construct the JSON. Is that simulating the actual time of the AI model? So it's not actually simulating. So what is happening is it's sending it to those models, and we're getting that response back. So this is all real. So there's no kind of simulation there. So this is what's useful about GitHub models in this playground, is we can kind of see side by side the types of responses that we would get, the response time, which you can also see like the kind of input tokens, the output tokens, the latency, the cost there as well. So it then helps you start evaluating which model is appropriate for the scenario that I'm building in my app. So this is why GitHub models is interesting and helpful, because it can help you as you start thinking of building those AI-based apps. I'm going to do something slightly different this time. I'm going to combine the system and user prompts together, just so we can get that into the meta one as well, because into Llama, because there's no system prompt for that. Okay, so then let's remove that. Good. Paste that in. See how that goes. So again, notice how 4.0 just gave us the JSON back, whereas the Llama model here did give us a little bit of a response up front. So again, it's just something that I'm thinking about, is if I was using those different, trying different models in my app, I'd be thinking about how do I strip out anything which isn't JSON in front? How do I make that more predictable? And different models have different ways of doing that. That's just something that I'm thinking about if I were building that up there then. Arrays allow for random access of elements, meaning you can access any element in constant time if the index is known. Yes. Primary characteristic of an array data structure. Good. So continuous block. So it's interesting, again, the types of questions that we're getting is different. True or false, a map, also known as the hash table, always maintains a specific order of its key value pairs. No. Some complexity of searching for elements in a heap. Okay. Again, you can see this is where it's interesting looking at GitHub models in this way and trying out these different scenarios, because then we can see how many tokens we got from each model, or how many tokens it took, the output tokens that it took, latency, then another message as well, so slightly slower on this one, but again, this is Vivim as well, so yeah, that's kind of the intent behind models, is being able to kind of experiment and start comparing which models you might want to go and use in your own applications. And then, in fact, if we go and click on this, use this model green button here, we can then go and start looking at steps on how to go and integrate that. To the extent, we can even click on the code tab over here. I'm going to close that model because at this point I've decided GPT-4o is the one that we want to go and use. Now, depending on which language I'm using, maybe I'm using Python, I'm using the Azure AI Inference SDK, maybe I'm using C#, or maybe, hey, you know what? I want to go and use REST to go and do that as well. And when we go and update that system prompt, which looks like it disappears when we switch between the compare mode and the single mode, you can see that once we pass that system prompt in, or even as we've now decided on GPT-4o, let me take that line out and let me put in chat that. There we go. I mean, it's got this default user message here. Can you explain the basics of machine learning? So we might change that. But you can see that this is now a basis that I can go and work from for implementing this. If I were running this in JavaScript using the OpenAI SDK, of course, if we were using a model which wasn't, so I'm just going to paste that back in. If we're using a model like DeepSeek as an example. Code snippet not available. Okay. And I just need to update. That was why, because I think I had the OpenAI one selected. But you can see here now, because it's a Llama model, the OpenAI SDK wouldn't make sense here. So now we can only choose from the Azure AI Inference SDK. So yeah, it gives you this ability to be able to go and adjust things here. So we go back to DeepSeek now. And then like that. There we go. So you can see how this is then a basis that we can use to start building our APIs then as well. So yeah, the idea behind models is for you to kind of experiment with how you could go and build AI into your applications there. So it's, yeah, an interesting kind of playground, hence it's called the Models Playground, to go and experiment and come up with these different ideas. So yeah, hopefully that's been useful. A little bit of a tangent here today. And yes, saves a lot of time manually testing each model in many different ways. That is exactly the point of it, Matty, is doing that. Yeah, and then you know what? There's actually one thing that might be useful here as well. I just jump back. Did I save? Oh no, I didn't. Oh, it's okay. I put in VS Code, didn't I? I need to jump back and share my screen. You've got this button called the prompt editor here as well. In fact, you also have these defaults. You can see some of my previous presets here, because I was testing it for an app I was building actually as well. So you can save your own prompts as a preset. So let me go into this with computer science tutor. There we go. So now you can see we've got this computer science tutor preset. When we go over to the prompt editor, I don't think that carries across, does it? But I could come back. I could say, right, we want to go and use our task agent thing here. And this was something that I was testing for a pet project before. I was trying to kind of use the AI to assess if you're given a load of information, can you determine which agent you need to go and send something to? And it was just a bit of a thought exercise for me. But if I switch back to my computer science tutor, now you can see my system prompt is there. That's a nice little thing to be aware of with the presets if you're trying to use different presets and whatnot. And then we can go and iterate on prompts over here as well. So we have just, I'm going to go with binary trees again. We have just learned about binary trees. Please, can you help me set my understanding? And again, remember that if, depending on how I'm building my app, this user prompt might not even be something the user themselves can go and enter. It might be something that the client is sending on behalf of the user, and that's still some kind of structured message. So this is the point in this playground, is it allows you to go and experiment with these different ways of kind of working here. So let's try that. So we can see the parameters over here. Then what you can also do is add these variables in then as well. So if we wanted to change how we were going to look at that prompt, we can do that. So cool. So you can see then you can put in these variables and start building out this this kind of reusable prompt editor then as well. So yeah, there's a few different tips and tricks that you can go and pick up to go and use GitHub Multiples here as well. Right. We've been running on a bit here, so I'm going to wrap us up. But we need to do our ritual, our normal thing that we do on this stream. Are we going to go for heads or tails, people? Are we going to go heads, or are we going to do tails? Because this was the game that we kind of started off building a number of different games on the CLI. I think we'll go heads. There we go. I think that is the sign, isn't it? That is the sign that we should be done. Ask the tutor what the tutor thinks. That is a great question. You know what? Just for fun. Just for fun. Probability with heads and tails. Now, you know what? Should I pick heads or tails? I'll be curious whether it actually responds. There we go. It's interesting that it still gave me computer science questions. Like, it didn't just say, sorry, I can't answer that, but it gave me some questions. But it very clearly did not answer the heads or tails question for us. So T3, hopefully that's that helped, maybe. But there we go. Good. So fun way to end the stream here, folks. We will be back later today. Cassidy will be on at 2:30 Eastern American time, which I can't remember what that is right now because we're in the kind of daylight savings difference times. but 2:30 Eastern, and I will be back once again at 10:30 UK time. And I say UK time because I guess we soon go into British summertime. It all gets confusing, but we'll remain at 10:30 of whatever the UK time will be. So we'll continue that next week. Do drop me messages. Do let me know, like, if there's something you want to focus on, like if there's certain languages you've been working with, if there's kind of certain frameworks or certain projects you've been working on, let me know. I love to hear it because then that helps influence where we go, what we do in these sessions. I think we might carry on with some more games again next week, because I'm sure I'll be working on a few things by then. But let me know. Please let me know. And otherwise, folks, I wish you a lovely day. It's a lovely day here in the UK. I hope it's great where you are. And we'll be back then. So until then, bye for now, folks. Have a good one.